The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's the beginning of a wonderful week and the Rev.
Yep.
After a weekend of violence.
Yep, weekend of violence, weekend of heat and humidity. And today we got starting with rain. Hey, we're really on a batting 1,000.
The only good news is tomorrow the humidity is going to go down until toward the weekend. Yep. It's going to get warmer.
And then it's going to come back for the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, it's going to come back out, which is going to make it a long, hot weekend.
That's it.
So we had 2 stabbings, one Friday, Saturday.
But we're a safe city.
We are a safe, yeah. And you know, that's the whole thing. Again, we got our recreational director. This will probably call for another movie quickly.
Mm-hmm. No, it's going to call for a carnival. There was 2 stabbings.
Two stab. Okay, multiple stabbings are going to cost. Yeah, but again, absolutely no leadership at all. We've never heard anything about the crime. He says it's a safe city. Mm-hmm. He's trying to, he's even being disingenuous and flat out deceitful about the city, ignoring it, just like years ago when they said we had no gang problem, and there were gangs all over the city. So he's ignoring the problem again. He won't tell the people, and it's ironic because this morning I was watching TV and was watching somebody who was a former politician say that the greatest single obligation that the government has is public safety. People have to be safe. Right. And we're seeing all what's happening throughout the country now because, your flush was good. It was long. It had a couple of other issues. But, unfortunately, they succeeded in dumbing down the people because they've got them convinced. They watch these propaganda and listen to propaganda all the time, and they got them convinced, and they don't even know what the reality of what's going on is. But again, our mayor really has never addressed crime except to say this is a really safe city. Never addressed the issues in the school department, which are rampant. We have fights and attempted rapes and suicides and every other thing, and we've seen parents go there being irate and stuff like that to the school committee. Nothing ever. A leader would get up and say, "Look, this is what I'm going to do. We are on this. We can't cure it immediately. Nobody can cure anything immediately. But I got a plan." But his plan apparently is to give more movies, more parades, and hide from the major issues. So I said, he's more of a recreational director and a ceremonial mayor than he is a leader. And that's the problem. We've got a serious problem in this city, and it's not going to get any better with leadership like this.
One of the interesting things, one of the stabbings was in front of a bar, a pub, whatever you want to call it. And if that happens in Providence, what happens?
They immediately shut it down.
Exactly.
And they have to go before the licensing board.
Right, and they suspend the license for 3 days, 4 days, then they have a special meeting, and they address it. Fall River doesn't do that. You can have a shooting inside a bar, and no big deal.
Well, again, there you are. You've got Providence and Fall River. There's something like that. The first thing he goes, "Oh, did he donate to my campaign?
Yeah.
Is he politically connected? Where did it happen?" I mean, in Providence, I'm not saying it doesn't happen everywhere because politics is politics.
That's
we
right.
know that connected people do. But they at least have a process. You have a violent incident like that in Providence, they shut the place down.
That's
and you
right.
have to go before the licensing board. Nothing. Again, inaction, and...
Well, look who the chairman of the licensing board is in Fall River. Tim McCoy.
Yeah, well.
Okay, another political hack. And don't get me wrong. Personally, I like Tim, nice guy, but everything he does is political. Every job he's held has been political. I mean, he was a city administrator and he knew absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Well, it's a paycheck.
That's
It
what
was,
it was.
a little bump in pay and a little paycheck for a while.
But he took a leave of absence from the housing authority to come be the city administrator in Fall River. And then when he lost the job or left the job in Fall River, he went right back to the housing authority. Where do you know that you can take a leave of absence to take another job?
Well, the Fall River Housing Authority, because look who is the chairman of the board in the housing authority.
I know.
Look who the board is made up of.
Right.
It's almost, that's the MBTA and the Lottery Commission of Fall River.
Always has been.
That's where everybody's kid who can't get a job gets a job. That's where everybody who, they swing back and forth.
Old politicians go there too.
Yeah, they swing back and forth. This is it. Send them over to Housing Authority for a little while. And the old adage, we heard it, and we heard it live. We heard it with our own ears. Keep your mouth shut, keep your head down. This will all blow over in a while, they'll forget.
Yep.
So they send them to the Housing Authority to forget. And if they get in trouble in the Housing Authority, they send them to the city over here till everything calms down. And this is the problem. The problem is, no, they're going to go on the radio and talk about people having hobbies and stuff like that. But, people being politically active it's not a hobby. It's them actually. It shows how out of touch that he is. Apparently, all he ever did was walk around the halls with his hands in his pockets. Never read a newspaper. I know he said he's not good with numbers, but he's not good with reading either. Because if we go back to the Mollicone incident, the Mollicone was in the newspapers when he was a vice principal at Durfee.
That's right.
So either he never read a newspaper or turned on a TV when this was happening in Providence, but now he pleads, well, I didn't know. Well, unfortunately, you're supposed to know.
Right.
You're the mayor. You're supposed to have people who vet these people. And you're bringing them into the city. And this, again, this is the typical public employee that just goes in, collects a paycheck, puts their hands in their pocket, and is oblivious to the world around them. And there's no greater fiefdom than the school department. We know that because of Ed. They are autonomous. They're accountable to virtually nobody, as we found when we saw what happened with the superintendent.
Right.
So Malone could do anything he wanted, and he still hasn't been held accountable.
Nope.
The taxpayers are being held accountable because we're going to pay for all the lawsuits.
That's right.
And all the settlements. We're being held accountable. So it's time for the people to be held, to hold them accountable. I saw on TV today they were talking about the Roe versus Wade and virtually, are we losing democracy? And, of course, 50-some% of the Democrats said yes, and although they're the ones who would have taken it away. But then 49% of independents are all around 50%. The first thing I thought of when I saw that? They're all crying about us losing our democracy, although the Democrats are trying to destroy democracy.
Right.
But that's another issue. But I looked at that, and I looked at myself, and that unlike him, I like numbers, especially when it's data. I looked at that, and I said, look at this, 49%, 53%, 50, If those people voted, we would have a democracy. How many elections do we see that are settled by 14% of the vote? Fall River.
Right.
How many elections do we see, especially local and state, where you have less than 50% of people turning out in communities?
Right.
And it's most of the time it's the communities that need to change their government the most that you have the most apathy. There's the problem. See? I'm not even blaming you. You're just taking advantage of the situation. No, I'm serious.
I know you are.
Look, these people, they take advantage of the situation.
Of course.
And I'm going to blame the people. It's their fault. 14% of the people voted in an election. Last time I checked, that left 86% who didn't.
Right.
So the 86% that didn't go to the polls, when you get your tax bill, look in the mirror and yell at yourself, because it's your fault. You elected this guy. You elected him.
Couganomics.
And this is the insanity of the whole thing, you know, and you covered it. You know, covered it a lot about Roe versus Wade. Here's another example of how they just rewrite history. They talk about democracy, but they don't want democracy. Democracy means that everybody has the right to their opinion. It means that you abide by the law, the nation of laws. Now, you got the DOJ allowing people to walk up and down in front of the justices' houses. That's against federal law.
Correct.
You're watching them do the same thing to the Supreme Court of the United States, again, against federal law. But Nancy Pelosi threw up a bunch of fences and had everybody there to protect her butte, but easily, right? But they let them ignore the law, and then they manipulate. They lie. They flat out lie. They don't twist the truth. They flat out lie. You know, they've ended democracy with the Roe versus Wade decision. Actually, it's the exact opposite, as you said in the piece, in a Weekend Flush. What they've done is actually take back democracy. The Democrats they seem to forget that even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said this was bad law.
That's right.
Bad law.
Right. But you notice the Democrats don't say that.
No.
Okay.
You can't.
And even people who are pro-abortion,
Yep.
okay, or pro-choice, use Ruth Bader Ginsburg as
She's the icon.
the icon. Not only is she the icon, but she's the bar that they need to meet for, civil liberties for females. Because that's what she did in law. When she was a lawyer, that's what she did. She fought a lot of civil rights cases,
Yep.
even in front of the Supreme Court. And for her to turn around and say that Roe v. Wade was bad law, they don't say that. They don't see that. They only see what they want.
Yeah.
They only see what they want. But when we're talking about this, that she said it was bad law, we're going to be vilified. Oh, you guys are, blah, 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 blah.
She said it. We didn't.
Well, exactly.
She said it. We didn't.
Right.
And the reality is, it is bad law because it's about democracy. That law was anti-democratic.
That's right.
These people should be celebrating because what it said is, the voters decide what they're going to do with abortion.
That's right.
And and the pro-choice people keep saying they comprise the majority of the majority opinion. And if that's true, what are they worried about?
Right.
Why are they so worried? Because it's not about Roe versus Wade. It's about a political maneuver to get them to the polls to vote Democratic.
That's right.
Because they're afraid it's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms. That's what it's about. It's got nothing to do with Roe versus Wade, because the reality is, this is to have the federal government tell every state how they should do it is wrong. And we have to say, bring it back to the states.
Have you noticed that none of the polls ask the people, what do you find more important right now, the Roe versus Wade decision or inflation, jobs, and... They don't ask those questions.
But we do have the stat on it. I saw
Yeah.
only 27% of the people think that this is the most important factor.
Exactly. So when you look at these things, you have to say to yourself, what is going to be important in the elections? These midterms are going to be very, very important.
Ooh, we just got another biggie,
Okay.
CJ, from our man out there. The coach who got fired for praying after the football games just won his case in the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay, good.
So, but again, they're going to start screaming and yelling because they're anti-everything, and it's about politics.
Separation of church and state.
It's about politics.
Yeah.
They want this. All these, they got them all brainwashed. They're lunatics. Oh, they're taking away rights that people are going to... No, all you do is you put it back to the states, and the reality is every state that's a liberal state has already got fairly all-encompassing rights.
Yep.
Or they call them rights. But and the conservative states are going to vote conservative. And the reality is, listen, if you if you don't like the state you live in, and you want to have an abortion, you go to a state that allows it. That's all. And they can't, the poor people, this affects white. No. Look, stop with the con. Everything's a big con. Actually, the pro-choice movement was started by someone who wanted to destroy the minorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the abortion clinics were set up in
Poor black neighborhoods.
Black and Hispanic neighborhoods.
That's right.
Because she didn't feel they should be in the society. So, the thing is, they always take this moral high ground. Their rights are being violated. You can, if each state votes, what's going to happen is exactly what happens now. You look at all the states that have very, 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 solid pro-life legislation.
Like Massachusetts and Rhode Island.
They're all liberal states.
Right.
If you look at the states that have very stringent, more pro-life, they're all conservative red states.
And you actually can follow that right along the Bible Belt.
That's right.
In this country.
Yeah.
And if you follow along the Bible, you can actually see the line of demarcation between the liberal and conservative states. I mean, it's like south of the Mason-Dixon line, and it's not even the Mason-Dixon line anymore. It's even.
The irony. I'm watching these demonstrations of these Looney Tunes that have been brainwashed, and they don't have any idea what the case was. Give us our rights. You're taking away our rights. That's what they just did. Mm-hmm. They just gave you the right to decide.
Right.
What you are saying is that you want the Supreme Court to be a fascist state. So you can pack the court with liberal judges and then basically just do anything you want, regardless of the law. That's not what they're there for. They're there, as they said, to interpret the Constitution. There's no constitutional guarantee about that. Turn it back over to the states, because the Constitution clearly states anything not codified in the Constitution is to be put back to the states and allow the voters to vote. So all them people screaming, my rights, we want our rights, we want our rights. That's what they're giving you. They're giving you a right. They're letting you vote. Go spend your time walking around being pro-life or pro-choice. Lobby. Go to the polls. I mean, and the irony is, where are all these demonstrations taking place? In the states where this decision is totally irrelevant.
Yeah, like
New
Rhode Island. New York.
Rhode Island, California,
Right.
Boston. You got the mayor of Boston on yapping. And it's like, is everybody really this stupid? I mean, do they even have any ability to think clearly? And it's like, look at this. The people who are affected the least are screaming the most because it's a political thing. It's got nothing to do with Roe versus Wade. And the precedent stuff, oh, God, the precedent. Oh, they can't do that. They've done it like 230 times for bad law. And if they had their way, remember, we'd still have Jim Crow and Dred Scott. So we'd still have segregation.
Right.
So all the people who are screaming about not reversing a precedent, that shows how dumb they are. They don't realize that if the Supreme Court didn't do what they did, that is look at law that is not, I forgot exactly what he's, like grossly, misappropriate, that decision. They have to go back and correct it. You can't, that's why they can't. You don't change every precedent if it's based on the Constitution. But the reality is, that's the irony. They're screaming and yelling, they can't do this. Look at the sanctity of precedent. Well, if that was the case, were they screaming when they overturned Dred Scott and the Jim Crow laws? No. They were celebrating in the streets. See, that's what they don't understand. They don't want neutrality. The Supreme Court's supposed to be neutral. It's supposed to be dealing with law, not politics. And they want it to be a political body. And the bottom line is, now they're complaining. But that's what they did. They dealt with the law.
Well, what's interesting is, I mean, when you look at some of the statements made in the Dobbs case, when you look at it, I mean, you've got Roberts, who said he agrees with the law for Jackson, Mississippi, which was Dobbs versus Jackson, and he agrees with the decision, but he thinks it goes too far to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's why the vote was actually 5-3-1.
Yeah, as you said.
Right, it's 5-3-1. But then you've got Thomas, who's turning around saying, "Oh, we got to go back and revisit everything because of a lot of bad law." It is not up to the court to make new law. It's up to the legislature to make new law. It is the court's job to interpret the Constitution, whether it be the Constitution of Massachusetts and be our Supreme Judicial Court, or the Constitution of the United States, and that's SCOTUS. That's the job of the court.
It's Hobbs versus Jackson, not Dobbs. Okay, it's Hobbs. We got corrected.
Who corrected?
No, he's wrong. No, he just said he's wrong now.
It's
our
Dobbs.
legal beagle, it is Dobbs. Okay. But
I was going to say, I know it's not Hobbs.
But as you said, Thomas said that, but Alito said no.
Right.
Alito was very clear. This does not affect anything else, as you said.
Exactly.
The way the court operates, if they get a case in which calls into question any of those other things that
then they can
about,
address it.
Then they can deal with it.
Right.
But that doesn't open up the door like we've got to go back retroactively and fix everything that's bad.
Exactly.
That'll never fly with any court because the justices, that's his perspective and he's
right.
But the reality is the other just said no. That's not what the Supreme Court does.
That's right.
We do not make legislation. What we do is we rule on the constitutionality of this thing, and if a case comes through, just like this case, that's where I disagree with Roberts. He's saying he shouldn't have gone this one. Well, the case opened up the door. When you go into court, you see the court dramas, and the guy says, well, you can't go there, but then somebody says something, you go, oh, well, you opened the door.
You opened the door.
Now I can go there.
That's right.
So that's what happened. This case opened the door. This was bad law. It's been bad law for 49 years. Because I hate to tell all the people that are screaming, but it took your rights away from you to weigh in on this issue. That's what it did. It's said in the thing. But that's the problem. The problem is they're all brainwashed. They listen to the propaganda. You got people on it just flat out absolutely lying. And I mean, we're talking, and then January 6th, they're in jail for trespassing for a year and a half. And you got Maxine Waters screaming for violence.
Right.
Ignore the court. They're all, inciting violence. But now all of a sudden, that's legal now. Because everything they do is moral and just. Everything anybody else does is illegal, and you should be thrown in jail forever. So, but at least, as much as it infuriates me to see how stupid people are. They don't educate themselves, and they don't listen, and they just listen to propaganda. At least they're doing something. Again, back that it's and it's not a hobby for them. It's a belief. It's a passion. Participating in your government, you should get acknowledged for that. If you go in front of the council, I don't care if you're right, wrong, or indifferent. At least you're taking the time to participate in your government. That's what's wrong with this country. We got 14% of the people electing these people who have ignored the law and screwed the taxpayers of the city of Fall River. This is the problem, people. This is the problem. You don't vote. You can't allow 14% of the people to control it. And then you get city councilors who ignore the law, mayors who ignore the law on a regular basis, and then you pay for it in your tax bills and you cry. But get to the polls. Next election, let's see 66. Years ago, remember the old days when you didn't have stuff like this going on because nobody would raise taxes every year because they'd be out of office?
Out of a job,
We used to have 70% turnout.
Yes.
People don't remember that. We do.
1970s, it was 70% turnout.
70% turnout in elections.
That's 50 years ago.
Yep.
We had 70% turnout.
Well, unfortunately, people were smarter 50 years ago. I hate
Yeah.
to say it because I think I saw one study that said the average vocabulary of a high school student today is down 20 to 25,000 words.
Yeah.
They don't even teach them how to read and write anymore. All they
And the
teach them
worst
how
part
to
about
do
it
is
is they
walk
make-
around with signs.
They make up words and
Yeah.
they put them in the dictionary.
That's right.
It never surprises me. Hey, do you know Bill Maher?
Of course. I mean, I know the show. I don't know him
Ultra
I know.
liberal guy, right?
Yeah.
Ultra liberal. This week on his show, he called out a group of people who said that because of their inclusiveness, they are actually driving people away from supporting them. And I couldn't believe it. And I said, he's going to get, and he said he was going to get a lot of crap for it. He said right off the bat, he says, what I'm going to say, I'm going to get a lot of, and that's just the way it is. But he called out the LGBTQ, and here's what he said. It's the LGBTQLRPQSOTL, and he goes, because they're so inclusive, they're driving people away. He goes, when it was just the LGBTQ, that was fine. Then they started adding everything else. They're trying to be so inclusive that they're making themselves too big, and people are just fed up with them. Yeah. And I suggest that you go on YouTube and find his diatribe from this past week, because it speaks volumes not only to the liberals, it also speaks volumes to the conservatives. Because obviously, when you take things too far, see, I got what he was saying. When you take things too far, you drive away your base. You drive away your base. You don't want to drive away your base, okay? You may want to take it that far, but you know that if your base isn't going to go that far with you, you keep it, you tone it down a little bit and just keep it. That's going to keep your base going.
No, you're 100% right. Because look, too far in either direction is no good. We
That's
saw
right.
that with what happened when they destroyed the Democratic Party. It ended with McGovern running for president, getting annihilated. They went too far to the left. We saw it on the right when they went Goldwater.
Right.
Goldwater was too far to the right. That wrecked the Republican Party for a while. They had to recalculate and get more toward the middle. Mm-hmm. But like you said, listen, it's right. I just saw now that imbecile that we call a national leader talking about, this is what he talks about, putting transgender in Title IX.
Yeah.
See, that's what drives away people. Mm-hmm. It's a physiological fact that men cannot compete with women. They will always, they're going to destroy sports. And like you said, this is what pushes people away. Now people are upset with that wokeness, mm-hmm. and it drives them away.
Right.
I think people in this country, for the most part, and there's nothing that's 100%, but I think most people in this country have accepted a lot of the alternative lifestyles.
Right.
And they're fine with having them have housing and marriage and everything else.
Exactly.
But when you start doing stuff like you got to let them beat up women mm-hmm. in sports, people they just leave.
They get pissed off.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that's what happens. And right now that's what's happening in Fall River. People are getting pissed off. This week your tax bill's coming out. When you get your tax bill,
sit down first,
take a Valium, and get it under control, because you're definitely going to need it. And we'll have to see what happens. I mean, I'm waiting for my tax bill with bated breath. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now.
They always know where you live when they send you the tax bill.
That's right.
Won't they?
And the water bill.
Yeah.
Believe me. Well, thank you very much for watching. It's always a pleasure to be in your home with you. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye now.